Hi everyone, it's Gary Nicholson here for the Mountain Weather Information Service. This is your planning outlook on Thursday the 5th of December. It's a rapidly moving weather sequence over the next few days as Atlantic westerlies stream in. Temperatures will be up and down, and the general trend is down as we go onwards into next week as the air mass generally comes around from the northwest. Now, if you were to believe some of the newspapers, they'd have you believe that the Ice Age was coming, basically, I think, from some of the headlines recently. In the real world of weather, it's one of those where there's still natural uncertainties, but many of the trends for the 10-day outlook are looking cold. Let's take you through the sequence then. For temperatures, first of all, this at 850 millibars and corresponding nicely to the highest Scottish tops gives us that feel for where the air masses are going. And through Friday, we just start to drag in some chillier air, only just about dipping below freezing point on the higher Scottish tops, more markedly perhaps just in the far north later on in the day as freezing levels drop somewhat. They will stay fairly low to start Saturday, but will rise again from the west as a warm front comes in through Saturday daytime. The next warm sector temporarily is across the British Isles, then through into Saturday evening. The freezing level will come down again, though, as a cold front sweeps through in the early hours of Sunday, and then Sunday is a generally chillier day, with the freezing level between around 800 and 1,000 metres. It'll more or less stay there as we go into the start of next week, if not even drop somewhat, as the air just turns more towards the northwest. Still some fluctuations as the next frontal systems go through in the first half of the week, but as we run onwards into the middle of the week, it just looks increasingly likely that we draw around the air more from the north or northwest, and you can see how the temperatures have lowered through into the middle and probably second half of next week. The synoptic sequence then looks like this. Friday sees a westerly wind in charge. It's a rather turbulent day once again across the mountains. Gale force, particularly across England and Wales, maybe less strong across Scotland, certainly compared to Thursday. A windy day nevertheless, and a cold day with temperatures sub-zero across the highest tops. We've seen a cold front then clear southeastwards. Another quite nasty little frontal system is just spinning eastwards across central southern Scotland, northern England and Wales through the course of the day. And associated with this is an upper trough in the atmosphere. Essentially, it's a zone where the showers really will get clustered together. Some quite intense sudden downpours with some hail and thunder mixed in for a time. That passing eastwards through the middle of the day. For the Scottish Highlands as a whole, it's more a story of showers across western mountains, those of some snow on the higher Munros, fewer showers though toward the eastern side of the Highlands. Things are changing again though as we go through into Saturday. Friday's system is cleared away toward the east. A brief, shallow ridge of high pressure builds across the British Isles, and if you get your timing right, you could find yourself having quite a decent day over a few hours, with a brief lull in the winds before they turn southwesterly and strengthen as the day goes on. Some dry conditions around for a time, just one or two dregs of showers left, but the risk is of fronts coming in from the west that will send things downhill basically as the day goes on. Soonest across western Scotland, where there's some snow on the leading edge of those fronts, turning to rain as milder air moves in with time, and that rain becoming more extensive pretty widely as we go onwards into Saturday afternoon, evening and night. Best chance for staying driest for longest then across sort of Pennine areas out toward the borders and the eastern side of the Scottish Highlands, where you may get away with most of daylight substantially dry. Fronts will have very rapidly swung eastwards though overnight, so a spell of heavy rain for many. The cold front already gone into Europe by the time we get to the middle of the day on Sunday. In its wake is a cold westerly pattern, a polar maritime air mass, deeply unstable with quite cold air aloft in the atmosphere, which will generate showers, and those will rattle in from most western coasts, spreading well inland eastwards. Only really the far eastern side of the Highlands maybe just seeing scattered showers. Most places elsewhere they'll come through quite frequently. Heavy bursts, some hail, some thunder mixed in at times, and snow occasionally as low as 500 or 600 metres. Add to that the risk of a widely gale force, if not even storm force, west by southwesterly wind, which may well gust 60, 70, 80 miles per hour at times on some of the higher tops, and it's a rather unpleasant day. Severe wind chill factor then, air temperatures will tend to be a shade down on Saturday's values. Things changing again onwards into Monday. Looks as though Sunday's system drags away. The next fronts over the Atlantic not quite coming in. So if the ridge of high pressure manages to time itself well, you might find there's a window of opportunity to be found. A chilly day still with a frost pretty widely in the sheltered glens overnight where the winds have dropped. and staying cold through the course of the day. Watch for some snow coming back into the western side of the Highlands when those fronts arrive later though. And that's a bit of a tangled mess of a chart. I think it's one that the models have got to get a handle on exactly what's happening yet for Tuesday, but the next low is coming in. There may well be a broad warm sector as shown here. It may well narrow a bit by the time we get there. It suggests then that freezing levels would lift, at least across England and Wales. It may be that the milder air doesn't get too far across Scotland, in which case we need to talk about the risk of some widespread upland snow from that system. Gale force winds, according to this chart, will be focused across the southern half of the British Isles, but that's just open to question at this stage. Expect Tuesday to be a fairly active day at the very least. So one way or the other, low pressure is in charge as we head toward the middle of the week, and it's drawing around cold air masses from the northwest, polar maritime with its source partly around Iceland, partly Greenland, and even some of it originating around the Norwegian Sea. So it's all dragging in that cold air mass on the whole. Northwesterly winds trying to get going in the middle of the week, so the Scottish Highlands extensively becoming frozen. Snow may well fall and lie to lower slopes with that sort of setup, tending to be a higher freezing level the further south you go across England and Wales. May well still give some snow across the higher mountains at times, perhaps more extensively if that cold air can drain a bit further southwards. Absolute detail and the sequence is tricky once we go beyond the middle of the week. It still looks as though there's a sequence of low pressure systems trying to swing through from the Atlantic, but always drawing in some distinctly cold air that is lying to the north of us. So winter conditions on the Scottish mountains, the higher mountains of England and Wales, looks likely to be the story through the week. There may well be a series of lows that goes through, and if those can engage with that cold air, you wouldn't rule out quite a notable snowfall across some of the mountains through next week. The wind speeds then may well vary. Some places could see gales, others could see a lull in those winds. They will vary from day to day. But I think the message for this stage for the latter part of next week is one of being cold across most, if not all, of the British mountains. So will those cold patterns take us all the way through to the Christmas period? Early days, of course, at this stage. Some indications do go for that generally cold theme in the weeks ahead. Others a little bit more back and forth for some freeze and thaw. We'll have to just see how things unfold. At the very least, over the next week to 10 days, there are some markedly wintry conditions, some severe conditions to be aware of on the mountains at times, so always be prepared for those conditions. Stay up to date with the latest forecast every day on our website. We'll update the video again for you on Monday. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.